Enjoy.
Hello, everybody.
Enjoy the live
Good evening.
stream. Hello, my friends.
Holla.
See you two again.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Yeah. How are
So
you
mad I
feeling?
missed last week.
Oh, you
What
got
were you up to, by the way?
I got sick. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, strep.
yeah.
Every week's like a blur, man.
I got to tell you,
tell me
after
about it.
after raising two children up to the age of 6, that you always hear about like, oh, the germs and all this sort of stuff.
yeah.
I've been knock on wood, I've been incredibly lucky to like not get that sick despite having children in my house. But my daughter came down with strep throat, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And then by Monday after that weekend, I was like, "Oh man, I feel kind of warm."
Oh,
and
no.
then that
Feel a
that
little
Tuesday, the Monday night, I had like 101 fever. And then Tuesday, I'm like, I'm gonna go to urgent care, and they're like, "Well, we'll do COVID and flu test." I was like, "Well, my daughter just got diagnosed with strep yesterday. Like, we'll do a strep test." And then they left the room. They come back to like, "Well, you're positive for strep." I'm like, "Great." and so I got on the antibiotics and took Dayquil and everything. And throughout the day, I told you guys, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling well." And I'm like, "But I'm gonna do the show. I'll rally. I'll be all right." And then like as the day went, I just cratered. And then I think what was it, like 3:00 when I was just like, "Nope, I'm not doing the show. I'm out." And I don't even think I made it to 8:30. I didn't.
Good. I'm
even-
really happy you didn't do the show. Because,
Yeah.
like, there's enough of us. Like, if you
Yeah.
feel yucky, like, just take it off, dude.
And you guys know me, and Jason, you know me well enough, long enough that like I've and also this is also like a pre-pandemic kind of thing, but like our work ethic or our generation or our just culture was like for how many years was like work through sick.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right? Like, I don't feel well, whatever. But like this one, like I haven't had strep throat in I don't know how long, whatever, but like I couldn't, and I don't know if it was the antibiotics or whatever, but like I was in such a fog, I couldn't make words. Like I was on work calls that Tuesday and that Wednesday, and I was trying to talk through like, and I'm like, no, wait, I couldn't find the word to actually complete the sentence. And I'm like, I need to go lay down. This is bad. So, but
Good.
I'm feeling
Well, I
much
was thinking
better.
that.
I was gonna say, like, on the bright side, like you getting sick now is better than getting sick right before going to IO.
Yep.
But
Or
then I
at
just
IO,
remembered
yeah.
that Friday was your birthday, so you were probably sick throughout the day, and that probably felt awful.
Yeah.
Happy
No.
belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. No, I was fine for my birthday, thankfully. Yeah, no, it's like my daughter got sick the day after my birthday, and then we took her to the doctor on the Monday after my birthday. So I was fine through the birthday weekend. No, actually, my birthday was just this past weekend.
Yeah.
No, so this is like a week ago. Yeah, no, so I was better by the time it was my
Oh,
birthday.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I
My
guess
birthday
every
was
week's
this
blurred
past
now.
Friday. So I had already finished the antibiotics by the time it was my birthday. So I was all cool. I was all good there. So yeah. Anyway, either way, yeah, you're right. It's
I'm
good to
happy you're
it's
better.
good to get the illness out of the way before IO and before all the madness of today and everything. But yeah. So
Well, do I look any different? Do I look any different, everybody? Yeah.
You change your lighting.
What?
You got more like even lighting.
No, it's.
Did
I
you get a
broke my-
haircut?
I broke my nose.
you broke your nose?
Did?
Yeah.
Oh, now that I know,
Oh, now that I
just see- what happened?
I was in the backyard with my daughter on Saturday, and we were playing volleyball. And literally, it was the last one. It was like, all right, dinner's ready. Let's do this last one and go inside. And the ball ended up on the ground, and she was like playing with my dog. And I bent down to pick up the ball, and she was under me. And right at that moment, she jumped up because she was playing with the dog, and the crown of her skull went into the side of my nose.
Oh,
Oh.
did it hurt?
It startled me, like when things like that happen, like, yeah, it was painful immediately. And then then blood just started gushing out.
Oh,
and so I
God.
just kind of kneeled over. I was like, yeah, could you get mom? And spent like 20 minutes trying to stop the bleeding. And It's surprising that it doesn't hurt as much as it probably should, because it is truly broken and there's like nothing you can do when you have a broken nose, unless it's like highly cosmetic and you need to really get in there and correct things. Like you just kind of wait for it to heal. There's not a whole lot you can do. So,
Oh God.
so it's a little dented in right there.
Oh man.
You kind of see it if I go sideways, you see a little crown there now, and
Man.
apparently by the way, this is the second time I've broken my nose. I broke my nose when I was a kid.
Breaking my nose is one of my fears. Like or just irresponsible after watching years of mafia movies and things like that. It's just like the broken nose is like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I have a few moments since that day where like I remember the event and I remember the impact, and it makes me like stop what I'm doing, just like, okay, I need to not think about that again. Like that was rough.
So I had strep throat and 102 fever. Jason broke his nose. Mashal,
Yeah,
what
what'd you do, Mashal?
malady have you had in the last week?
Hey, don't jinx it. I'm feeling good right now, but I hope that stays the case throughout the weekend.
All right. Well,
everybody in the chat, let us know if our audio levels are balanced.
Yes.
In this wonderful recurring nightmare that is StreamYard audio.
of all the crap that StreamYard has thrown at us in terms of product updates, just give us like an audio meter.
Yeah,
like type thing. That would be so great. Yeah, but we have a big show tonight. It's a very special show. All right, we got a Mashal's could be improved. Willie, we need more. We need more detail than improved. Like louder,
Do I
softer.
sound too quiet? Am I too loud?
You need to be more descriptive, my
need
friend.
To know.
Louder.
Be louder. Okay,
Yeah.
so give me a second. I will boost.
Tech is amazing.
Boost
Says
now.
Jason. Great job on your. Willie says louder. Great job on your video today. I really enjoyed your videos. We're going to talk about that on the show later today, so everyone can see what he's talking about. So,
I'm stoked. I'm stoked you enjoyed it.
it's okay, Willie. We love you. You're the best. All right. Well, we got a packed show. We got so much to talk about in the world of Android, and we got an interview, and we got all the fun stuff. So
yeah, I'm just doing my final loading of sources and stuff, and then I will be good to go.
Right. Cool.
But yeah, today. Oh, I guess we'll probably say it in the show, but today's like I/O before I/O. It's like
This is I/O Eve.
It's I/O Eve.
Well, I'm gonna say that in the opening.
It's all the Android I/O stuff
It's
that would normally
the Android show.
Yeah.
I've already that's the name of my stream on X.
That's the title. The title. The Android show.
Yeah.
The show.
Show.
Okay. I think I am in a good place.
All right.
Yeah, Jason, that was sorry. I thought it was about the sound. Also, thank you, Joe. Okay. Let's see here. So you're doing the ad. I have an asset for that.
All right.
So I guess the billboard top of the show read will be this.
Yep.
And then the mid show, like the ad will be that plus the web page.
Website, yeah. And if you want to show the Google Play Store page, if you want.
Yeah,
that's right. You can bounce between the two of those. So
Totally.
all right.
Okay. Well, Mashal, I'm going to remove you from the stage. Me, I'm going to stop my camera. Ron is there, so when I come out of this, it is Ron saying hello to all the peoples. That is you. Okay.
All
we are good. Count down and go for it.
All right. This episode is brought to you by Planter. Arrange your garden and learn how to grow vegetables with this garden planner app. Get up to 25% off a subscription at planner.garden/get/AF. Well, hello and welcome to a very special edition of Android Faithful. We're your weekly source of the latest news, hardware, and apps of the world of Android. And boy, is it an interesting time to be in the world of Android right now. My name is Ron Richards.
My name is Jason Howell.
And my name is Mishal Rahman.
And happy Google I/O Eve, everyone, or Google I/O Week Eve. We are
Extra
one
Android-y episode.
extra Android-y episode.
Yes.
This is even more Android faithful. We are 1 week away from Google I/O, which is very, very exciting. And Google First off, it's great to be back on the show. I missed you guys last week.
Welcome back. Happy you're feeling better.
I was stricken. I was bedridden thanks to my daughter giving me strep throat, which I didn't know you could still get strep throat in your middle age. Here you go.
Oh yeah, strep's a thing. Yeah,
remember,
for sure.
Remember a couple years ago when I got mono? Remember that, Jason?
I forgot about that until now.
I got mono a couple years ago. Now I got strep. All of a sudden, I'm an elementary school child again.
What else are you gonna get that you the chicken pox? Have you had the chicken pox yet? Maybe you'll get those.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. I'm just saying. I'm not wishing those upon you.
Yes. So let's hope not. No, I think I'm vaccinated for that, thankfully. But yes, it's good to be back on the show. And I had to be back for this week because Google I/O is next week. But Google went ahead and got ahead of the curve a little and released and announced a bunch of news thanks to their pre-I/O edition of the Android show. But we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But before we get into that and all the week's news, we have a super packed show this week. Ton of news coming out of the Android show from Google. And as part of that, we're super, super excited that we have an exclusive interview with Patrick Brady, the VP of Android for Cars. Super awesome conversation that Jason and Flo had with Patrick that we're going to share later in the show after we get through all the news. So pack show. But before we get through all that, I want to get through a little couple of housekeeping bits, some things you, the listener and viewers, want to take note on. So because Google I/O is next week, Jason, you'll be there.
I will be there.
Michelle, you'll be in attendance, right? I will be there. Florence will be there. Unfortunately, Wynn won't be there. She's going to be at Kotlin Conf, so she'll be there in spirit. We will miss her.
She's going to be at the actual developer conference.
Yeah, exactly, ironically. But we will be there in person. We do have a special interview lined up with some awesome folks from Google.
Yeah.
You will find out who we're talking to next week. We will have a show next week. It will not be live. So those of you who like to watch the live stream, do not tune in next week. We will not be live. We will not be doing a premiere. We're not doing anything else like that at all. We're going to be recording at Google I/O, both the interview as well as we're going to be recording our show. We're going to bust our butts to get the show out either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. It all depends on how the day goes. We're going to have to play it by ear. Yeah. So,
I think I can probably get it out on Tuesday night, but like I'm not staying the night there. So yeah. So it'll be a little coordination, but I want you to get it sooner rather than later. So
exactly, we want to get it.
Jason's going to work his butt off. We're all going to work our butts off.
We want to get sooner rather than later. So just stay tuned. Keep an eye on your podcast feeds. Stay subscribed. Keep an eye on everything. We will get you our take on Google I/O as soon as we can. So next week, no live show. It'll be released. We'll release it to YouTube. We'll release it to all the podcast feeds as usual. Release it to Patreon. All that fun stuff. Good question. We haven't talked about that. Will we do a after hours next week? Also, we should.
Oh,
we should do an after hours. There's no reason not to.
It's part of it's one of the perks. By the way,
it'll be an exclusive after hours from Google I/O. So that will also come out after the show comes out next week. And you can get that over at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. And it's also super important this week for you to become a member of patreon.com/AndroidFaithful so you can listen or watch Android Faithful after hours because of the interview and because of all the news coming out of the Android show this week. We had to bump a bunch of news out of the show this week into the after hours show. So if you want to hear your emails, if you want to hear some additional news stories that didn't make the cut, tune into the after hours show after this show.
I realize we've only recently started after hours and we're only 2 weeks in. This will be our third week, but I'm really enjoying it. It's actually a ton of fun.
I was actually bummed I missed it last week. So
yeah, because it's got a little bit of not like this show is all stuffy and everything, but it has even more of like what do you want to do now? Kind of. Let's just go for broke approach.
It's got a casual nightclub
super
kind
casual.
of feel.
It's
got a lounge kind of feel. That's what I like about it. So
it feels like a true bonus. So check it out. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful.
Yes, we are very proud of it. So all right, so those are all your updates. So let's get to it. So Michelle, what the heck happened on the Android show? What is the Android show?
What is the Android show? Well, I'll tell you. It's a special show. It's been around for a while. It used to be like purely developer only kind of news. But this time, Google decided to basically split off a lot of the Android news they were going to announce at I/O and instead host separately during this pre-I/O special I/O edition of the Android show. And that happened earlier this morning. They announced a ton of news about Android, Gemini, and Google products. Heck, we even got a surprise teaser from Nothing about their upcoming flagship phone 3
Yep.
that they're going to release this summer of around 800 pounds. But we have a lot to talk about from the Android show. Like, there's so many updates to Android
Boy,
16,
do we.
the new
Yeah.
design, Wear OS, security updates, the Find Hub, so many different things to talk about. But just so we don't like have everything be front loaded in the news section, we're going to be splitting things up and talking about various news from the Android show throughout the show.
So,
But
before we get to that, though, I know we speculate. You guys probably talked about it last week. We talked about it when they announced it a couple of weeks ago. The assumption is that this clears the path so that they have more. They've less things they need to talk about in the keynote at Google I/O next week, right? And it kind of deprioritizes Android at I/O next week.
I mean, that is the impression that people outside of Google are applying to this, is that, oh, it deprioritizes. I think if you ask Google, and I think that, leading up to this, it was asked of Google, and their position seems to be more that there's so much Android news, it didn't make sense to try and cram it into the main keynote along with everything else. It made more sense to give it its own opportunity to shine. And I think my initial kind of take was kind of the grumpy, like, oh, well, what does this mean about Android? It's deprioritized. I think maybe there's a little bit of truth to that, but considering the amount of news, I think they're also right. Like, there's a ton of news that they announced today. And if they wanted to give that full stage presence and get maximum coverage in the journalist space, like, this actually makes a lot of sense, because the AI stuff's going to take the lead now. It's just, it's so modern and so current that, of course, it's going to steal all the headlines. So I think it made perfect sense, actually.
And like, the keynote can only be so long, right? They're not going to make it excessively long, and you have all these teams within Google fighting for attention. They're saying like, "Oh, our product should probably get some moments in the keynote," but you can't have everyone get like a spotlight. So giving Android its own show, its own spotlight in the news ahead of I/O, I think makes a lot of sense. And in fact, you can argue that they are prioritizing Android by doing this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They're giving it its own big day. It's just we're used to that big day being part of I/O, and this in combination with the reorganizing of the day, the lack of Android in the keynote at I/O, does make you question what I/O truly is at this point. I think that's a really fair question. Is it still a developer conference? Is it a developer conference that serves all developers, or just developers that are dabbling in AI? That's a fair question, I think.
And as
we'll find out next week.
And we'll find out next week.
And as we go into I/O next week, I feel like for the past couple of years, every I/O we've been like, what is I/O, right? Like that's the same conversation we've had every year, and every year that answer is a little different. So anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Right.
All right. So there are things. And I think the thing that as an Android fan, we talk about on the show, actually, it's come up so many times, how different Android versions iterate, and yet some of them feel more major than others. And I think often what we see as being a major update is a major facelift update, right? Because that's the easiest thing to look at and go, oh, wow, it looks different. This is a huge update because everything's different. And so it's interesting that this seems to be one of those years. Having said that, Material 3 Expressive isn't so completely different from Material Design before it that it's a radical change. But what it is Google kind of prioritizing more, I don't know, energy. Emotion is a word that they put in time and time again into the design of Material Design. So you're going to see lots of changes. We talked about this based on the leaks from last week a lot too, so I won't go too deep into the weeds here, but different styles, buttons, palettes, dynamic physics-driven user experience. So when you pull things, out of certain places, they kind of like take other things with them and then pop back into place and have a little bit of a jiggle, like little UI elements that some people I've seen a lot of it on social media already. People who are really grumpy about this stuff are like, oh, I don't need I don't need UI updates. I need real tangible updates. Like, give me this or give me that. And yeah, that's true. But also, like, I would say that what Google is showing off of these updates, real-time data streaming into the lock screen with kind of like a live update, dynamic island sort of thing, background blurring behind elements, Google Apps getting all of these updates and kind of setting the stage for what other developers bring. I mean, all of this shows me that Google isn't, whether you like it or not, at least Google is getting in there and playing around with these things to try and make it a little bit more engaging. Because I do remember the time when Android was really boring, and some people wish that it still was. I'm not one of those people. I like these
know what
these
this all reminds me of, and in addition, and we're looking at all the official kind of blog posts that Google kind of covered. But if you head over to AndroidFaithful.com, Flo did a great write up on all the announcements today, and specifically focused in on the material expressive look on this stuff, and had some nice takes on it. But some of the Material 3 expressive stuff and the subtle, the bounce backs like you mentioned and things like that, remind me of the subtle changes, the evolution that Android took when we started getting haptic feedback. And we started getting, kind of responsive, where it starts to make the device and the interface feel a little more alive. And I don't mean alive in, Terminator, Skynet, it's going to kill us. But, but just in terms of like, oh, there, like, I'm doing something and I'm getting a response back that isn't just like text back or something. I'm getting like a physical or visual confirmation that my mind is acknowledging, but I'm not cognitively acknowledging in what I'm doing. It's helping me move along. Like, that's what it kind of reminds me of. And even though they're calling attention to it, and making us focus on it, I wonder if it's the kind of thing where, like, if you didn't even know about it and it rolled out this update and you started using it, it'd be like, ooh, I like how this feels, like that sort of thing.
It's very physics driven.
Yeah. Michelle, what has been, now that you've seen the official take on it, what have you thought of all this?
I think Google is trying to make Android's design just less dull. I think that's kind of the impression that I've been feeling for a while when you open the settings app, for example, on a Pixel phone, like this home screen, you have all these icons and they're all just basically this gray, dull color.
Yeah.
But now, like, they're kind of revamping that to adding like colorful icons everywhere, like these rounded shapes in the quick settings, like this little animation that plays when you toggle it. These animations, you swipe away notifications, when you swipe away recent tasks. The much more colorful buttons throughout apps, like the toggles and everything, like they're just adding a bit of life to everything. It's just kind of the impression that I get. And I think they mentioned in their blog post, they're trying to do it to appeal to younger people. I don't know if that's really gonna work, if that's gonna actually pull away people. But like, this is the kind of direction we're seeing from a lot of other Android skins, like this kind of design.
Yeah, they said that. And they also said that through their testing, of which apparently they did a massive amount of testing, which we talked about last week, right? Is that these expressive designs, the expressive approach, being that there's different, sizes of buttons to kind of draw your eye to the thing that you might be most likely to want to touch, or this different color that complements the other colors but stands out in a way that you're drawn to it because that's the action that you might want to do. Google also says it's not just about younger users; it's about all users, including older users, who through their testing they found that this type of approach makes the UI easier to use. Because people do know where they're going instead of, and I think one of the examples that they gave is like the keyboard. I don't know where I could find it in this video, but the keyboard layout in one of the apps. Well, this was one example that they had, like in a music player. If you're watching the video version, apologies for audio listeners, but if you're in a music player, not having all of the buttons be the same exact size, shape, color, everything allows you to immediately see, the play controls are larger and stand out a little bit because 90% of the time, if you're on the screen, that's probably what you're going to be interacting with. So why make competing shapes and colors with that? The other things that you might want to interact with, they get a little bit smaller. Doing touches like that so that as users, we know how to use this instinctively just by looking at it. Yeah. That's their vision anyways.
And I especially like the use of background blur pretty much everywhere. Like especially when you pull down the notification panel, you can now see like the wallpaper behind the notification panel in the quick settings. Like currently, if you pull down the panel, it's like you have this white background for the notifications and then just a black background at the top. And it's just kind of very dull. It's like lifeless.
Yeah.
It's very good on contrast. Like it makes things really easy to read. And I would argue the newer design where like you blur the background a bit does sacrifice a bit of visibility because the things are going to start to blend a little bit more. But I think it just looks a lot better. Like it just looks a lot prettier and easier on the eyes for me.
I mean, Android does have, high contrast mode and different settings in there for accessibility. I wonder how they're going to play with this for exactly the reason that you're talking about, if there's a way to get it in those settings to separate more. It's actually a really good question for Google if we have the chance to talk to them.
Yeah. if only. So
if only. I'm just throwing that out there.
So plug time, go to Jason's YouTube channel over at youtube.com / @Jason Howell.
That's it. Yeah.
And check out his video on Google's Material 3 Expressive Leap. It's burning up the charts, getting the views.
Yeah, so apparently it is.
Yeah, so
I used it as an opportunity to kind of go back in time too, because I pulled out some of my old devices and showed off Howell, which was right before the Material Design update, and kind of went through the history of it a little bit. I had a lot of fun with it. I think I'm going to do more kind of historical Android looks on
I like that.
on the channel. Because why not? We've been doing it for a long time, Ron.
Yeah, definitely. Got the knowledge.
Might as well.
So, so go to YouTube, check out Jason's video there. Go to AndroidFaithful.com, read Flo's right up there.
Yes. Great write-up.
Wasn't all the news that came out, and included in Flo's write-up over at AndroidFaithful.com was the second bit of news that came out in the Android show. Of course, had to do with Gemini, which basically, as it sums it up, is that Gemini is now in everything. And this is kind of like this. I felt like this. It wasn't cheating, but this is like gathering all these little bits of Gemini stuff that has been seeded throughout the past, I want to say 6 to 9 months. We've had conversations with the folks at Google TV. We've been seeing, kind of some stuff happening around Android Auto. The WearOS stuff was, is somewhat new and interesting, but to see it all come together under this umbrella of the idea that, Gemini is basically coming to the rest of the Google devices. With this announcement, it makes it official. Gemini is now expanding to WearOS. And that's really the WearOS and Android Auto were kind of the two stars of this announcement, because like I said, we've already seen a little bit of the Google TV stuff. But over on the WearOS side, now Gemini will be on your phone. You can talk directly to it. You don't need to have your phone out. It's connected directly to it. You connect it to your apps. You can just tell your phone to remind you something, to remember something, and it'll do what you need to. You can ask your phone to remind you where you're meeting your friends for dinner, and reference an email, and it will pull that information out for you and tell you what you need to. So Gemini on WearOS, big deal. Gemini on Android Auto. We've talked a lot about this in the past couple of weeks, and we're going to talk more about it in this episode. Sure. Thanks to Jason and Flo, talking to Patrick, the VP of Android Auto.
for Cars.
Android for Cars. Sorry, Android Cars.
Mm-hmm.
But basically Gemini enhancing the hands-free driving experience, and how Gemini can upgrade your driving experience. And so a lot more to come on that. And then, of course, like I mentioned, Gemini on Google TV, giving you, kind of customized questions and answers. And then at the very, very end of the Google blog post about Gemini, they teased Gemini with Android XR, which I do think I am going to make a Google I/O prediction, which I don't think we budgeted time for to make predictions about I/O, which I know historically we do. I feel like we're going to see a lot about XR at I/O. Because they keep sprinkling XR throughout a lot of this stuff.
They mentioned during the event, or like the actual Android show itself, that I/O attendees will get a demo of their glasses.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
I hope so. That'd be very cool. That would be very, very cool. So, but of course, Gemini will be available on Android XR, which I think, and we a bunch of us were lucky enough to participate in a press briefing about all this kind of stuff, all these announcements. And one of the questions that I had asked was, how integral will Gemini be to the Android XR experience? Because, you've got these glasses and there's no kind of interface and all kind of stuff. And they confirmed that, Gemini is kind of also, given where it is in the development phase, that Android XR isn't even out yet. These devices aren't out. It's the first kind of device that is being developed with Gemini from jump, right? So they're including Gemini in the development from the beginning. So they're, integrating it natively throughout the experience. So really curious to see where that goes from there. So cool stuff from Gemini. I mean, it's the natural evolution. We knew it wasn't going to stay on the phone forever. We're wondering when it's going to, when it was going to make the jump to other devices. Gemini's here to stay, and it's going to be on all Google devices. So
and then over in the dark corner over there on the other side of the room is Assistant weeping. Like, seriously, they don't love me anymore, do they?
Well, they did confirm that Gemini is replacing Assistant. I mean, that has been out there for a while, whether people want to acknowledge that. We keep asking, when is Gemini going to replace Assistant? Google has been very clear about the fact that Gemini is replacing Assistant. It's no surprise. So,
Assistant's not getting fired. It's just it's just retiring.
Yeah.
It's passing the baton.
The next, it's going to join Hollow and all the other,
right.
things. So, So cool stuff on Gemini. So
yeah.
All right.
Although before we move on to the security stuff, I did want to mention that Gemini isn't the only thing that's coming to WearOS, because Google also did announce WearOS 6. The latest version of WearOS is based on Android 16, and it's also getting some of the Material 3 Expressive stuff that Jason talked about.
Yeah.
Like the dynamic color theming, which is finally coming on WearOS. You pick a watch face, it'll theme the various icons. It's like a lot of new animations are also coming to WearOS. So cool update to look forward to if you have a Pixel watch or you're looking to pick up a new Samsung watch or whatever is coming out later this year.
I like that they're paying some attention to how the UI elements on the watch face interact with the shape of the device. So if you've got the rounded display, the button doesn't necessarily bleed off the edge, and then you run the risk of, hopefully developers, are doing the work to not have text get cut off. But, sometimes that can happen. It just doesn't look as tailor-made. And now with the new Expressive design, everything kind of forms and fits around the shape of your particular device. And so it looks very intentional, and it looked really sharp. I liked it.
How long do you think it'll take to get WearOS 6 on our OnePlus Watch 3, Jason?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. How long does that normally take?
I don't know. Besides Google and Samsung, I think WearOS watches tend to have a pretty bad track record for updates.
Yeah. Well, I hope soon, because this is the watch that I'm wearing.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, same.
Cross my fingers on that one.
OnePlus, please.
Yeah.
Give us the update.
Do it.
All right, and then that wasn't it from the Android show, right, Michelle?
Oh, no, it's far from it. So, as I just mentioned, the security stuff. There was a lot of security news from the Android show. Like, one of the biggest announcements, in my opinion, is the introduction of advanced protection. So, this is a new security mode that is designed for people who think they are at high risk of being hacked. If you're like a public figure, a journalist, or an activist, for example. This new feature in Android 16 is basically like a one-click toggle. It turns on a whole bunch of different optional security features in the OS. So, for example, it turns on theft protection, which is disabled by default right now. It enables USB protections, enables an inactivity reboot feature that restarts your device after 72 hours. It forces Google Play Protect to be enabled at all times. It prevents you from sideloading apps. It disables 2G, disables insecure WP networks, and enables a whole bunch of other features within Google Apps, as well as provides an API that third-party apps can tap into if they want to enable their own security features whenever they detect that you enable advanced protection mode. So this feature basically is like, you care about security, but you don't really want to dig through 100 different settings menus or like 30 different apps to find out what features are best to enable to protect your data. This is just one-click toggle that you go into Google settings, you say, I want to enable advanced protection. You enable it, and then it enables all these different things. And it's going to be really helpful for users, if you are really worried about your device getting compromised by an unknown entity, or you just want to be extra secure with, potentially getting hacked. You don't want to risk yourself downloading some malicious application or file and then your data getting stolen. This is just one feature you can turn on and it'll protect you.
And so why would someone choose not to turn this on? Is it just that it inconveniences in
There are
ways?
some inconvenience things.
Because you like to live dangerously, Jason.
Well, I do. That's why I broke my
There
nose.
are some inconvenient things. Like, I guess the most obvious thing for power users, for example, would be the fact that it blocks sideloading. So if you wanted to install an app from outside the Google Play Store, for example, you'd have to turn off advanced protection to do that. So there are reasons why you might not want all of these settings on, and that really depends on you, the individual.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the thing with security, right? It's like the higher the security, the more you kind of have to just accept that there are inconveniences related to that. My wife hates two-factor authentication with a passion. I'm constantly like, yeah, but come on, I know, like it sucks. It's inconvenient, but it helps. It protects.
Yep.
Yeah.
So some other protections that Google is working on are some new anti-scam features. So these features are designed to basically alert you whenever you might be in a conversation with a potential scammer. So these features are rolling out to Android, to the Google Messages app, as well as the Google Contacts app. Didn't
they announce this last year at I/O?
This is an
No. There's a lot of different things. There's some new stuff that they announced today.
Okay.
So the new stuff they announced today is in Android, on Android 6 and later. If you are in the middle of a phone call, Android will no longer allow you to disable Google Play Protect. And this is done because scammers tend to try to get users to disable Play Protect so that they can get their victim to install a malicious app that would otherwise be flagged by Play Protect's malware detection algorithms.
And people do it.
Yep.
People do it. It's just, it's so
And in Android 16 also is implementing some new in-call protections. If you're in the middle of a phone call, Android will no longer allow you to enable the install unknown apps permission or the accessibility permission to new applications. And these permissions are frequently used by malicious actors so that they can get their victims to install, unauthorized applications and then grant them highly privileged access to read the screen contents or take control of the device. So by blocking these actions during a phone call, it'll potentially give users a chance to recognize that they might be talking to a scammer, because this pop-up will appear that tells them that you can't complete this action during a call and that scammers may be trying to take advantage of you by asking you to enable this access.
Yeah.
And the last in-call protection is a pilot program that Google is running in the UK that if you are in a phone call and you're sharing your screen and you're in a banking app, kind of very specific process has to happen here. Android will warn you that you might be on call with a scammer, because you should never be screen sharing your banking app with anyone. So Android will throw this pop-up that says you are likely on a call with a scammer, and and you might be exposing your financial details by screen sharing at the moment, and it'll tell you if you want to end call.
I love it. I mean, these are the features that not everybody is going to encounter, right? Like, this is going to apply to a very small select percentage of people, although it's growing, and I'm sure there are a lot of these that happen out there. But in the grand scheme of things, this probably touches a very small percentage of Android users. But if it happens to you and it saves you from transferring thousands of dollars to someone's account because you kind of fell for their tricks, which my understanding is very convincing, then that's like magic. Like, that's awesome. I love it.
Yep.
And that's not all, because those were all the stuff that's coming in Android. In Google Messages, we're getting improved scam detection. So currently, scam detection feature uses this on-device AI model. It can detect when you get a text message that might be related to a package delivery or a job alert scam. Now it can detect potential toll road and other billing fee scams, crypto scams, financial impersonation scams, gift card and prize scams, and technical support scams. So if you've ever gotten text messages, and many of you probably have, asking you to pay this bogus toll road fee, Google Messages can now automatically flag those as a potential scam. And you'd be surprised by how many people get taken advantage of and swindled out of their money by these scams and through text messages.
For sure. Yep.
And the last thing is improved is this new tool called Key Verifier. So, how do you know when you're texting someone that the person on the other end is actually your genuine contact, right? Like if I text Ron something, how do I know that it's actually Ron responding to me? Just because it's his phone number, right? But how do I know that he still has the device that's tied to that phone number? I don't, because someone could have done a SIM swap attack. They could have called his carrier, gotten his SIM card, and they have his phone number now.
Or they could have
don't have his
kidnapped,
device.
or they could have kidnapped me, and I could be in the basement tied up, and they have my phone.
Could be.
Well, I'll just tell you that this feature is not going to solve that problem.
All right. Well,
because this feature only solves someone like using a different device than the one that you verified.
Well, maybe they should work on the kidnapping problem. Maybe
Why
Why aren't they helping kidnapping? Huh?
They got to save those features for a future update, right? They've always got to have a big major feature coming in the pipeline.
So this feature called Key Verifier basically allows you to verify the device belongs to your contact. So you can share a QR code or these numbers, and if they match, then you are talking to, or like the person you're communicating with is your verified contact. And this is something you set up beforehand with your contact, so that if the person on the other end, like if Ron, for example, gets a new phone, the Google Contacts app will tell me that the message is no longer verified, and then I know that either someone stole his phone number or he got a new phone, and I should contact him some other way, and then get him to re-verify his device, and then get it to recognize it as his legitimate device. It's kind of a complicated thing, but like there's a lot of situations where people, scammers and hackers, use compromised devices to message people in the compromised devices like contact list to say, here's like someone you trust, please send me money, right? And because I trust Ron, I'd be okay with sending him money. Not really, but
whoa.
Ooh.
Well then,
I don't mean that in a bad way, but like if you're messaging me out of the blue, send me money. I'm not that gullible, okay?
That was a Google Wallet burn right there. You just got burned by Wallet. Cool, great.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there. I can understand why Google didn't highlight this stuff during their actual show, because a lot of it's kind of like under the weeds, like technical stuff, but it's really important, I think, like these kind of features because like a lot of people get scammed. Billions of dollars are lost every year
for sure
from scams, and the people who need it the most will definitely appreciate these kinds of features.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, there's so much in there. So go, obviously Michal and his team over at Android Authority covered it in lots of detail. Flo summarized it over on AndroidFaithful.com. Go to Google's keyword blog to get all the details from it. But big day for Android with the Android show. It was great to see Samad up there kind of kicking it all off, and the whole team behind the scenes over at Android sharing all the hard work everybody was doing with it. And we're excited to see how they build on this in Google I/O next week. It's definitely an exciting time, and very curious to see where they go with this from here. So
maybe to celebrate next week at I/O, they will send every attendee a scam message.
Maybe
and
to send
see how many
money.
of us fall for it.
Yeah, everyone asking to send Michal money. It's gonna be a message from Michal asking them to send them money, and they're gonna you're gonna be the demo of the keynote is, let's say Michal Rahman sends you a request to send him $500.
We know.
How do you know it's really him, right? I would have so much respect for them if they called out used real people from us in the press in the examples. That would be very funny. Let's say I'm planning a trip to Paris with my friends from Android Faithful. How do I know it's really them? And Ron's not kidnapped in a basement.
Send me a Google Pay request.
Yeah. Right. So good stuff. But yeah, seriously, go do your own research. Go see what else was announced. Go see what else is in there. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at contact@AndroidFaithful with your thoughts of what was announced today and what you want to hear from Google I/O as we prepare for it next week. Because we're excited to see what else is up Google's sleeve. And I'm going to guess it starts with the letter A and I, and also include the letter X and R. That's my
You're right.
prediction.
They are going to talk about Axer.
Axer. All right.
Xer or something. I don't know. Cool. Should we throw out some thank yous to patrons?
Yes.
Because they are awesome. They allow us to do this each and every week. Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. All of you who support us on Patreon, Thank you, thank you, thank you. James Derrick is but one of our amazing patrons that supports us each and every month on our Patreon. So thank you. If you are a patron, you get to vote each and every week for one story that we talk about in this news segment. The other two stories end up going into after hours, which if you are a patron at a certain tier, you get to hear those stories too. We'll talk about that later. But anyone can submit an image for this post and the patron news pick. And this week who did this one? It is
I actually did, because
that's why the name is not there.
It's time for the listeners to send in their bug droid images, because we're running low. In fact, the only bug droid images we got from a listener was one that sent me some sexy party droids that I felt were inappropriate to show on the show, but they were very funny. And I'm not going to call them out, but you know who you are, and you made me laugh. But let's keep them. Keep them clean.
Your bug droids PG.
Yeah.
Maybe
these were PG,
13.
but I felt like they were PG-13. So yeah,
I see.
Yeah, so I did a little bug droid barbecue. So,
this is total bug droid barbecue. Everybody is aligned very symmetrically for this photo. Those burgers are glistening.
Yes,
they are very
everything's
glistening.
very shiny in this one. Yeah,
very fatty burgers. Anyways, whoever you are, Mr. Ron, is it Riker? Ron Richards? Anyways, thank you for sending in this image, Ron. We appreciate you and your support on the Patreon. Okay. Not really. You're here doing the show. Okay. We had 3 different stories. Y'all voted, and y'all had one very obvious pick. Third place, 13%. Google's latest Pixel decision is one of the most annoying yet. And in second place, 14%, Google leaves older Pixels behind for Android's long-awaited battery health menu. Is it true that this is actually the same story, just different?
So
yeah,
unfortunately, I wasn't quite over my sickness as much as I thought, and I misinterpreted the 2 headlines. So really, it's just it's a challenge of 2 stories this week.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's 27% for the story that lost.
Exactly.
73% for the story that won.
Yep.
And that one is a story on Android Authority by Rita Corey? Never know how to pronounce your last name, Rita. You should come on the show and correct me. From Android Authority, who put the Android 15 device tracking system to the test. Specifically, she wanted to see how accurate it was in a powered off device still transmitting, because they say, certain phones can still transmit even if they're powered off. This is, of course, how the system works for iPhone, for the Find My network. And so she did some comparisons, and she found that performance was pretty inconsistent, a little unreliable. The Pixel 9 Pro and the Fold both failed to update location during many of the tests after being powered off a number of times. She found that this all contrasted with iPhone's Find My network, pretty consistently updating locations for 24 hours as advertised. Rita did notice a few instances where things worked, namely when the powered off device was actually kept close to her throughout the 24 hours, but noted that the feature often stopped working within minutes at times. So not a good look for the feature itself. Yeah. Good on her to put this through the test, though, because you want to know this about this feature.
It is something I've been curious about for a while that almost seems too good to be true, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if the technology is capable of working, then it should work. And I don't understand exactly how it works necessarily. I guess it's probably a low power emitting thing that still is fired up.
It's just that you have a Bluetooth controller, a Bluetooth chip that's powered separately, as its own battery that's kept on for a few hours after the main processor and OS shuts down. Okay. And that has these it continues to broadcast basically, and then nearby devices pick up on that and then report the location. It's kind of like your Android phone basically becomes a tracker tag.
Okay. So then why wouldn't it work when it's powered off? That's so peculiar.
Maybe some theories. Yeah, maybe it just didn't have enough battery in the Bluetooth chip, or maybe it's just the general woes of the Found My device network. The same problems it's always had, where it's just too many people nearby don't have the with network in all areas option enabled, so that it's not constantly reporting the location of nearby devices. You need multiple devices nearby to actually report the location. There could be many reasons why. And I just think in general, everything stems back to Google's decision to have the default be that with network and high traffic areas only option. That might be the default.
It certainly lessens the impact and the effectiveness of it.
Of the network,
You really have to know that and go in there specifically to turn it on to the right setting. And a lot of people are just plain and simple. They are not going to know to do that. They are not going to do it. And yeah, that sucks.
It's a real kind of built-in limitation then at that point,
Yeah,
so,
for sure it is.
Yeah.
For sure it is. And kind of related to this isn't part of that story, but definitely related to today being Big Android News Day. And then, of course, this story that y'all voted in. So I decided to kind of loop the news that the Find My network is now called Find Hub. This was announced today. And also support for ultra wideband finally coming later this month. The Moto Tag will be the first device supporting that with Find Hub. So there you go. The network we just told you about that wasn't very good, apparently, is called Find Hub. That's the thing you can hate.
Hate the Find Hub.
Hate the Find Hub.
Hate the Find Hub. Don't hate the game.
I have hope. I have hope that Find Hub will deserve love. But for right now, it's getting a little side-eye glance. Patreon.com/Android Faithful. Y'all are amazing. Thank you.
The two stories that lost we'll be talking about in the After Hour show.
Indeed, we will. That's right. Patreon. Yeah, the two stories.
Don't you mean the one story
together?
One story
morphed into one. We're gonna make it real impactful. We're gonna take both those stories and turn them into one.
Listen, we had like 80 some odd episodes in a row where we've never had a problem. We're allowed one. We're allowed one. So,
well, you had strep. You were getting over strep throat. Like you're allowed that.
Playing catch up all week this week. So, all right. Did we thank our patron? Did we thank James?
Yes, I did at the beginning, but worth saying again, James Derrick. You're awesome.
Thank you. All right.
I love you, man.
Cool. Well, thank you again, everyone on patrons. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got an awesome interview. But before that, we want to thank our sponsor for the evening, because this episode is brought to you by Planter. And listen, the weather's getting warmer. That means spring is here, and it's time for you to start planting. So why not level up your garden this year with an amazing app called Planter? Planter features an easy drag-and-drop interface to plan your vegetable garden. It's great for beginners and experienced gardeners alike. It can be as simple as dragging and dropping tomatoes into your garden, or if you want to get into the details, you can pick the very specific variety of tomatoes and customize the spacing. Planter has detailed growing information on hundreds of plants and thousands of varieties, with the option to add your own custom plants and varieties. And let me tell you, Planter is awesome, and I'm going to be honest right now. So my next door neighbors have a vegetable garden, and my kids cannot get over it. They love to go next door. They pick the cherry tomatoes. They grow an asparagus. They pick the asparagus. The neighbors know it's allowed. We're friendly here. But my kids cannot get enough of the vegetable garden. And having a garden, you see things grow, and throughout the summer goes through, you see the growth, and there's nothing more amazing than growing your own vegetables and making an amazing salad or grilling your own corn or doing all these amazing things. Having a vegetable garden can be so much fun, and Planter can make it so much easier. And so this is what I'm going to tell you. With Planter, I'm so into Planter that I'm downloading the app, and over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to design my own vegetable garden that I'm going to build with my kids. And when we come back in 2 weeks for the next episode that they sponsor, I'm going to show you guys the garden that me and my kids designed. Okay, that's what we're going to do with Planter. All right, because what's awesome is that Planter is totally free in the Google Play Store. You could use it no charge and design your garden to your heart's content. Or you can upgrade to premium, where you can remove the ads, which is always nice, but you also get some awesome features like notes, events, and the new tasks feature, where you can keep track of everything you need to do in the garden with notifications for when you need to start seeds and things like that. Plus, you can customize your garden's background, change the background color to mulch, rocks, and more, or add items to the foreground such as hoses, trellises, and tomato cages. You can make your garden your own. And with the premium subscription, you get access to the web app to help you plan and manage your garden wherever it's easier for you. So join the hundreds of thousands of users who've gotten into gardening with Planter. And best of all, and this is my favorite thing about Planter, it's developed by one of the Android faithful. Yep, yes, the developer is one of our loyal listeners who's been listening to Android Faithful and All About Android for years. So by using Planter, you're supporting a member of our community. And guys, honestly, it doesn't get much better than that. And because Planter comes from our community, we're delighted to have a special offer for the Android faithful. So head over to planter.garden/get/AF. That's planter.garden/get/AF. And this is really important. You want to make sure you use capital letters for the letters AF. So that's lowercase planter.garden/get/capital letter AF. And you'll get 25% off a premium subscription. Again, that's planter.garden/get/AF. And AF is in capital letters. Okay, that's super important. All right, we'll have a link in our show notes for it so you can go get it if you need to get it over at androidfaithful.com. So take advantage of the beautiful weather. Start your garden today with Planter, and we thank them for supporting Android Faithful. And we encourage everybody in the Android Faithful to support Planter, one of our own, making good.
One of our own. That's so cool. I remember talking about Planter on All About Android. I can't remember how many years ago, and it was shortly after I had built an outside planter box for my wife, and she wanted to get into square foot gardening. And this was the app that we discovered, and she used it for a while. The planter box is not in use right now. We're so busy, we haven't kept up on it this year. But she's totally used this app, and she loves it. It's awesome.
And it's so great. And in the years since you've done that, it's grown. It's available for iOS as well. It's Android. So cool. Look in the Google Play Store. Over 500,000 people have downloaded it. It's such a great success story, and we're so excited that that they came back to us to not only support Android Faithful, but also spread the word to our community. So listen, guys, go download Planter. Even use the 25% off to get a subscription. Try the free version, whatever. Just go download it. We definitely want to support the developers that enjoy the show and are making great apps. So thank you, Planter. So.
Yeah, and I mean it's springtime. It's right time. It's the right time for Planter.
The best time to start a garden was yesterday. The second best time is today.
Exactly.
That's what they say, Michal. That's what they say about gardening.
So with that said, we'll take a quick pause, and then when we come back, we've got our exciting interview.
Yes, indeed. All right, it's exciting interview time. Me and Florence Ion, the newest member of the Android Faithful, I'm so happy to have her with us, joined Patrick Brady, who is VP of Android for Cars at Google, to talk a little bit about the news today, about kind of Gemini coming to the car, what this means, what can you expect from Gemini and Gemini Live in the automobile. All that stuff is on the table, and we're going to play for you right now. So here it is, our interview with Patrick Brady. All right, and we are sitting down with a new face from Google that we haven't had on the show before, and I always love opening up the cast to even more people from Google. So Patrick Brady is VP of Android for Cars, joining us to talk all about Gemini coming to the car through Android Auto. Patrick, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jason, and good to see you, Flo, as well.
Indeed.
Hello, Patrick. I'm excited to have you here because I've been a longtime user of Android Auto. So I'm very curious to see what's happening and what's changing and how my life is going to change inside the car.
It will be completely changed.
You have such an inquisitive look on your face, Flo. And audio listeners should watch the video version, because I have a feeling we're going to go deep here. So why don't we start with the actual news, like the legitimate news that you that Google and your team are sharing about Android Auto and Gemini, and then we can kind of dive into some of the details from there. But give us a little bit of the pitch as far as like what's going to change for Android Auto now that Gemini is coming on board.
Sure. So Android Auto has always been, we've strived to build what we call a safe and seamless experience that allows drivers to keep their hands on the wheel, their eyes on the road. And so voice has always been kind of the primary input. And we've been, very happy and excited about what we've done with Google Assistant to help users get access to information on the go, get things done with, Google Maps or Waze and other mapping apps, listen to podcasts and streaming media, and respond to messages and things like that, and just answer questions on the go. We're very excited, though, to bring all the advances we've seen in AI, particularly with Gemini, into the vehicle, into the Android Auto experience, to give people an experience that's even more conversational, even more natural to interact with, and we think a bit more fun as well.
Cool. So I'm curious to know, because I mean, I think at this point we've gotten pretty used to having Gemini on our devices as we maneuver through the world, and the kind of expanded kind of capabilities that are coming to Gemini. Not quite, one to one on par with Assistant, but a powerful, in other ways beyond what Assistant could do. I'm curious to know, like, what is a scenario if you could kind of share with me how Gemini and Gemini Live really really kind of resonates or shows why it's so much of an advancement for the in-car experience, because it could go a million different directions. This is artificial intelligence, obviously, at its core, so it could be a million things. Like, set a scenario of where that real value comes in with that experience that's maximized by the experience in the car.
Sure. So I think, we've learned a lot from users using Android Auto, using Google Assistant in the driving context for quite a while. And we know what people predominantly do in the car. And I think it won't surprise you when it comes to, interacting with the vehicle through voice. A lot of it's around navigation, finding places to go, finding media to listen to, and also communicating with others. And so, okay, Google Assistant could do all of those things before. So what's really changing? The scenario and the way you interact with it completely changes. So, for example, if I'm looking for, restaurants along my route, in the past, you could just say, find me restaurants along my route, or maybe find me Mexican restaurants along my route. Now with Gemini, you could say, I'm getting a little hungry. Can you find me a good burrito place along my route? And then maybe it'll give you some answers. And then you can go back and say, actually, are there any that have good vegetarian options? And I'm looking for one that has, fast service and things like that. So even that same use case of finding a place to go to stop and get food while you're on the route is going to be completely transformed, because you can interact with Gemini as if it was, another person, a true co-pilot. Similarly, if I'm sending a message, hey, send a message to Florence and let her know that I'll be a little bit late because I ran into traffic. Instead of me having to dictate the specific message I want sent, I can tell Gemini generally what I want to send, and then it can actually write the message. But even more so, then I can say, actually, make it more apologetic, or ask her if she wants me to get, pick up a burrito on the way there as well. And you can do live editing, right? In a way that's just much more conversational, more natural. So we think even for those same user journeys that people maybe use a voice assistant for today, with Gemini, with the added intelligence and capabilities, it's going to be just completely transformative. One that kind of really surprised us, and you mentioned Gemini Live. Mm-hmm. We thought about at the beginning, well, does Gemini Live, is that something we want to bring to the vehicle? And we found in our internal testing that people love using Gemini Live on the go. So obviously people, listen to podcasts, listen to radio, listen to streaming media while they're in the car. It actually makes up a huge percentage of usage in these kind of top media consumption categories. And we found people going to Gemini Live and having the conversation about Roman history, or about, hey, I need to plan a spring break trip to Costa Rica for my family, and just kind of having an ongoing interactive conversation with Gemini Live along their commute. And so we found this internally and thought, wow, this is a really interesting experience, and was something, we hadn't entirely thought was going to really resonate with users as much, but we're really excited about it and can't wait to see what you all do with it.
Nice.
Well, so one of the ways I like to use Gemini, because I have to jump in here, or actually the way I've been using Google Assistant up until now while I've been driving, because I like to take long drives from Bay Area to LA. It's some really good thinking time. And I like to dictate notes for later, because, you'll have an idea sprout up while you're driving on I-5. It's very empty. And then sometimes though, Patrick, things can get a little emotional. I can really get into my own brain while I'm driving, and you're by yourself in a car with just a chatbot. And so I'm really curious, what are some parameters, some things that you guys are doing to make sure that this doesn't become this huge distraction? Because already we're having to deal with screens behind the wheel, which are distracting in their own right. So how do we stay from being distracted by our thoughts? You know, in the cycle with Gemini.
Yeah, it's a good question. Now I'm very curious. I would love to be a passenger on one of your San Francisco.
Oh, you would love to. I've got some very specific examples we could talk about later.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some deep conversations going on there. I think it's a really good question. It's something we've thought about from the very beginning on Android Auto, and even predating Android Auto. I think in the automotive context, whenever you're building software, you're building a user interface in the car, you think about safety. That's just kind of a core principle of how you're building, and so there's two kinds of safety or distraction really that we think about in terms of driver distraction. The first is called visual and manual. So that's when you're like looking at, away from the road or taking your hands off the wheel, where you have to touch a control, a touch screen, whatever it might be. That could be anything, tuning a radio station. I mean, this research goes back a long ways.
Yeah.
What we've seen is that voice, as a modality, obviously it can reduce visual manual distraction because it allows you to keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. And this is even why you have almost every vehicle out there now has a push to talk button to activate the voice input on the steering wheel itself. But there's been a lot of research done into the second category of distraction, which is cognitive load. So, your thoughts and what is that doing to your response time and things like that. And that's really important too, especially if you're using a voice assistant that doesn't understand you and you have to constantly, it didn't understand what I said. I need to say it again. And now you're thinking about, how do I interact with this voice assistant that's very rudimentary? And so, there's been studies before that show cognitive load can actually go up, even though you're using the system through voice. We think one of the really exciting things about the advancements in AI and large language models and what we've done with Gemini, especially in terms of multimodality and understanding and all of these things, is that you can actually talk to it as if it was a passenger sitting in your front seat. And you can have in-depth conversations, but it understands what you're saying. And if it misunderstands, just like, someone sitting next to you might, you can correct it. And then it will, you don't have to start over kind of. And so we're really excited for what we think that's going to do for cognitive load as well. Sorry, that was a really long answer. Hopefully that I'm still curious about your deep emotional conversation.
Oh, we'll talk about it later.
You mentioned multimodality, and this is definitely something that that has my mind buzzing a little bit. Obviously, the changes in recent months, in the last couple of months, to Gemini Live that have added, kind of like camera pass through and screen share and that sort of stuff are really cool because they broaden out and expand the use cases, and they expand and increase the types of inputs and the types of information and context that you can actually pull into the experience. And with Gemini Live now coming into the car, it has me really like it has my mind curious about what that could mean as far as the amount the potential amount of inputs that could be used into the Gemini Live experience, be it, and I realize it's, probably not there right now, but exterior cameras, the front and the rear, you've got all of the kind of the control mechanisms of the vehicle itself and the gauges and all this kind of stuff. Like, can you talk a little bit about kind of the potential of Gemini Live? Because I have to imagine I'm not the first person to think about where this could go if it's not doing all of this stuff right now.
Yeah. I don't know. You might have been the first. I don't know, but certainly you're not the only one. And we're really excited about that. I think, if you've seen what we've been able to do with Gemini Live on smartphones, but with some of the things we've shown on our Android XR effort, either for glasses or for VR headsets, you can see how useful multimodal input to Gemini can be to help you learn about the world around you, not only by your location or by what you tell Gemini, but what it sees. So we're really, really excited about the potential use cases for that in the vehicle as well. I think there's a lot of times where you're driving, on a road trip, maybe hypothetically from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and you see, a road marker, or you see a historical marker on the side of the road, and you want to know, what is that? And your options are like, pull over and go look at it. Wouldn't it be great if you could just say, hey, Gemini, what is that historical marker? And tell me what it's about. And, tell me more about that event that it commemorates, or whatever. It can use visual understanding and then information that it already knows about that event to really have a more helpful conversation. So we're really, really excited about the potential for multimodal input in the vehicle as well.
Nice.
Okay, so you made a really good case about what we want to do with it in our cars. I definitely, one thing that I wish was a little bit easier, for instance, is to have, if I want to do a spontaneous side quest on I-5, I actually used Gemini last time to figure out where to go see wildflowers the last time I came back up from LA, and it worked, but it would have been really cool to be able to do that live and just say, hey, in 2 hours, is there like a cool rest stop we could take?
Yeah.
I'm really curious, though, are there going to be parameters for this? Kind of like how, for instance, you cannot use game snacks unless the car is in park.
Yeah.
Like, just to kind of make sure that people aren't, trying to actually plan a trip while driving.
Yeah. I think, we need to learn from it and how people use it today. People do, modify their routes today when they're navigating in Android Auto. One of the, main early feature requests that we got after we launched was people said, well, it's great, I have a destination, but I want to actually add a stop on the road, or I want to, change my route while I'm going. And so that's supported. I think, we'll need to look at, how crazy does it go? I think if you're, you just start out driving from San Francisco and say, hey, I want to, let's create a road trip to Boston and find stops along. Yeah, okay.
Just take 80.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just drive east, one turn, you're good. So I think we'll have to see how people interact with it. In our experience, people self-moderate and kind of use it in a reasonable way along the go. We don't want to overly constrain the system because maybe this is counterintuitive, but you can actually increase cognitive load if using it is very different than how you use it on your phone, right? Because you're trying to figure out, wait a minute, I know this works. Why is it not letting me do this? Conversely, like you said, with game snacks or now some of the other apps and games that we support in parked or passenger use cases, you obviously can't just make it work exactly like it does on the phone. So these are some of the things that we're, looking at and how we're, as we look at usage and we do our internal testing, these are the things we're looking at.
I think I know roughly what the answer to this could be, but I think it's worth asking is the difference between, AI processing in the cloud versus on device when you're talking about an Android Auto in dash, and then you're talking about a phone connecting to that device. Like, how exactly is that happening? Is there any on device happening when you're talking about Android Auto in this perspective, or is it pretty much all channeling through the phone itself?
So in Android Auto, so if you're running Android Auto, Android and Gemini and everything is running on your phone, and it's connecting to the vehicle, typically over Wi-Fi today. And it's using the vehicle microphone and all of that. And so there's some processing, in terms of like echo cancellation and things like that, but no on-device AI processing happening there. We do think as compute, both on the phone and in the car gets better over time, we do want to bring more and more of, of that processing to be local, because if you're driving and you go through a spot with no connectivity, you'll want to be able to use that on the go as well without relying on a connection to the cloud. So that we're looking at that over time. Today, it's definitely all running in the cloud.
Got it.
And the good, the trade-off with that obviously is, we've had Android Auto vehicles that have been shipping since 2014, and we can bring Gemini to those, right, all the way to 11 years ago.
You mean those 2014 cars don't have NPUs and tensor processors that didn't exist back then?
Yeah, not most of them. Not most of them.
Right.
Aftermarket.
Aftermarket tensors.
Yeah, aftermarket add-ons. Patrick, I think the big question that our listeners and our viewers would like to know is, when is this coming to our cars? And I sort of just have like a quick additional question for you, which is, you had mentioned the little button on the steering wheel. Is that button in my Subaru, for instance, am I going to be using that to bring up Gemini?
Yes, so great question. So in terms of when, we're announcing that Gemini is coming to Android Auto in the coming months. We're not getting more specific than that because we're still going through internal testing and things like that. But we're going to be showing live demos in cars at Google I/O, and really excited to share that, and hope you all get a chance to check it out. I'm sure there'll be videos on the interwebs for those that can't attend in person. And we'll be bringing it to cars running Google built-in. So this is where they're running Android kind of natively in the car, and Google services natively in the car. We'll be bringing it to those cars later this year. So really excited about those. And Flo, what was your second question?
It was about the steering wheel button.
Oh, steering wheel button.
I have one in my Subaru. Yeah.
Yeah. So today that should.
So when I need to tell it a note, for instance, could I hit the button in the future?
Yes. Yeah. So you should just be able to push that button. In some cars running Android Auto, you have to hold it down to invoke the phone-based assistant. And so, the same way that you activate Google Assistant today in Android Auto, you'll be able to do that with Gemini.
Is it going to be kind of like I don't want to say drag and drop, but that's what I'm thinking of, like just a drag and drop replacement? Like, will I really notice it except for the voice change?
I think you'll notice it because the way, like I said, the way you interact with it, even doing the day-to-day tasks, is just different. When you're not talking, you don't feel like you're talking to kind of a primitive robot. You feel like you're talking to another person. I think we've all seen this with Gemini, and Gemini Live and things like that on our smartphones. So you'll definitely notice it. But we're also trying to make it, a seamless transition so that you don't need to learn to invoke it differently, right? So you can invoke it the same way with, okay, Google, hey, Google. And sorry for anyone.
We're going to have to bleep you out just so you know.
Or using the steering wheel button or the microphone on screen. So we're trying to keep that very familiar to users of Android Auto today.
Right on. Patrick Brady, VP of Android for Cars at Google. Big Android Auto news with Gemini and Gemini Live coming to vehicles very soon. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today and being on the podcast. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Boom.
So after that conversation, Jason, how excited are you to have Gemini in your car?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I don't have Android Auto or Google built in my cars. I wish I did.
So, Michelle, after listening to that conversation, how excited are you to have Gemini in your car?
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't really interact. I try as much as possible to avoid interacting with Android Auto after I start driving. I do everything I can possibly before I start. And
go on.
Just for like a safety reason, like the less I have to do while I'm driving, the better.
As a active Android Auto user who interacts with Android Auto quite a bit in DJing for my children while I'm driving and pulling up podcasts while I'm driving and using Google Maps and all that sort of stuff, and who uses Assistant and curses at Assistant quite often while using Android Auto, I welcome Gemini as my new Android Auto overlord and welcome the new experience. So.
I mean, I think the point around cognitive load is really important. And when I think of the benefit of, like, you can say all you want about kind of the modern state of AI and, all the bad things it's doing. But one thing that I think AI does really well when it comes to voice assistants is it does a pretty darn good job of taking whatever you speak to it and getting some sort of better understanding of what you actually meant when you said that thing.
Yeah.
And so the lack of a need for a true syntax that assistant really relied upon, that's a cognitive load when you're driving, is remembering the syntax so you can speak it appropriately. And with Gemini, there's going to be less of that. Like I can almost guarantee it. And as a result, that's going to make that experience a lot better for you, I think.
Yeah.
And it's especially important in cars because you want to reduce as much load as possible because you want to focus as much attention as you can on driving.
Yep. Lord knows the cognitive back and forth of the assistant can be maddening. It is like text message comes in, I see it, I press the play button, I blink and it plays the text. Do you want to reply? Yes. Blink and I say, okay. Do you want to send it? Yeah. Okay, I've sent it. Like I'm like, just shut up. Just do like it. Like oh my god, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. So, so we'll see. All right, good stuff. Great interview though. He's Patrick's super nice, super cool. It's very relaxed dude. I was very impressed by him.
Yeah, it was really nice to meet him, and you know, we'll probably have other opportunities to have him back.
Yeah, appreciate his time. So, all right, we're gonna take another quick pause, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about some hardware and some apps, and then wrap up the show. So, all right, so it's not all Android. Samsung's in the mix, right?
All right, yeah. The night before the Android show, Samsung finally unveiled the long-awaited Galaxy S25 Edge. This is the device that they first teased at the Unpacked for the S25 way back in January. So it's been several months since they launched the rest of the S25 series, but now we have the slimmer and lighter Edge model. So this device is remarkably thin. It only it's about 5.8 millimeters thick. It's about 163 grams, so it's much thinner and lighter than the rest of the S25 series. It's also pretty premium. It has a titanium frame. It also has a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display, same like WQHD resolution, variable refresh rate, 120 hertz. You know, a lot of flagship specs: Snapdragon 8 Elite, 12 gigabytes of RAM, up to 512 gigabytes of storage, Android 15, One UI 7, 200 megapixel camera. But what some of the notable, I guess, disappointing aspects of it are the battery capacity and the price. So the battery capacity is 3,900 milliamp hours. So, you know, given it's kind of expected. When you have a thinner device, you have less room for packing a battery in. So it was expected to have a smaller battery, but, you know, will 3,900 milliamp hours be enough to have this device last you a full day, especially for more heavy, aggressive users who are constantly streaming or, you know, browsing social media while multitasking? You know, it's going to be up to your use case to see whether or not this phone will actually last you long enough to be worth it. The other aspect that I think some are disappointed by is the price. This device is expected to go on sale in the US later this month for about $1,100. So it's quite expensive for a new smartphone. Yeah, kind of oof. Yeah, the idea is sound. I really like the idea of the Edge, you know, a slimmer, lighter phone, you know, like coming from this chonker, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, which I love. It's my daily driver. I wouldn't be using this every day if I didn't love it, but it is thick and heavy. So it would be a nice change of pace, especially for people who just want a phone they can comfortably hold in their hand all day to take this kind of device. But it remains to be seen. We'll have to wait for reviews to see whether or not, you know, the battery is good and whether or not the $1,100 asking price is worth it given everything you're getting from this device. Yeah,
I think what I can say right now, this is purely anecdotal because I have the Motorola Razr Ultra that I've been using for a little while now, and not really allowed to talk too deeply about it quite yet, you know, because of the agreement of actually getting the device. But I can say that I had one day where my battery life was not great. And what I realized in that is how I don't consider battery anxiety very often anymore. It doesn't really come up for me anymore. Like there are rarely times when I use a smartphone and I use it the way I use it and I get to 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh, 3%. Oh no, I've got to, now I've got to figure out my evening. Like, I've got to plug it in or whatever the case may be. And having that incident with it, granted, I was in a challenging environment, so I sort of understand why it happened. That makes me concerned about a device like this that has premium specifications and yet a battery that is much smaller than what we're used to for devices that do all that stuff. And I'm legitimately concerned / curious about
I will add to that. I can't go back to the days of battery anxiety. Like I just can't. Like,
it
and
sucks.
what's so funny is that so I went out last night and it was like 5:30 and I looked at my phone. I had like 37% battery. And I was like, I got to go out. And so I quickly threw it on the charger, knowing I was going to be out until like 10:30 or whatever. And I threw it on my wireless charger and I got it up to like 52%. And I went out, I put on battery saver and I got home at like 10:30, 10:45. And I don't think it was dipped below 40% at that point. Like it is such a different world of like, I'm not worried about running out of battery in a single day for years now. And I don't want to go back to that life. And if this,
I think battery life is kind of like, like a 5x telephoto camera. It's like, for the day to day, you're not really going to worry about it. But in those situations when you really need it, like the difference between a phone without a 5x and a phone with 5x matters a whole lot. Like we're going to Google I/O next week, right? Like if we're sitting way up in like the press area, it's going to be kind of hard to take photos, close-ups of people on stage if you don't have a 5x telephoto. So that's like the kind of situation where it really makes a difference when you have a phone with 2-day battery life versus a phone with 1 day. Will your S25 Edge be able to last you throughout all of I/O, tweeting constantly, taking photos constantly,
that's the
hotspotting?
challenge.
Like that's a challenge.
It's always
like,
the conference.
Can it last you? Can it survive that kind of environment? Like when you need it the most?
Yeah.
So true.
Great question.
So true.
Well, we'll see. Interesting. I do like
Having
a thin
said
phone,
all that,
though.
it's a beautiful device.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Looks great.
Yeah.
And interesting to the lineup. Good for them to try it. So good stuff.
And
But
apparently it's a trend that's coming from other device manufacturers as well. So Samsung's not the only one.
But that's not the only That's not the only Samsung news, right, Jason?
There you go. I was gonna knock that, but you got to it first. Yes, Samsung Galaxy Watch 8 series. There's some leaks around this. We don't need to spend a huge amount of time, but if you liked the Squircle of the previous Samsung Watch Ultra, then it sounds like it's probably coming to the 8 and the 8 Classic, according to some APK teardown action happening with Android Authority. So the kind of there are some in-app kind of animations that were discovered in the APK teardown that are noting these different watch types and the fact that they also integrate the Squircle approach. So there you go. No word yet on a rotating bezel, although I'd say that's probably pretty doubtful. I think maybe Samsung has moved on from the rotating bezel thing, much to the disappointment of many, including myself. I liked the rotating bezel personally. Also a shortcuts app, which might not sound that impressive or interesting or anything, but because it's just that, it's like it's an app or a widget or whatever you want to call it that allows you to put some shortcuts on it. But when you're talking about the smartwatch form factor, sometimes the app that you're looking for, it's not the easiest thing to get to them, right? Like you can go into the apps list and it's like, here's your wall of apps. And sure, they make the interface neat so you can get right to it, if you use the crown to navigate or whatever. But having an app like this that is literally just the shortcuts of the apps that you actually want at a quick tap, maybe that's on a watch face or whatever the case may be, that actually sounds kind of handy. As simple as it is, it sounds pretty handy for that form factor. And then finally, the Now Bar and Now Brief, apparently coming to the next series of Galaxy watches. This is, of course, the little I don't know what you want to call it, the dynamic island of Samsung, Samsung's delightful dynamic island. And you found it on the S25 series, and now it looks like it's coming to the watch. So there you go. Minimal as well as comprehensive modes from what was shown inside of the leaks. There you go.
Cool.
Yep. That's it.
All right. A little bit of hardware this week.
Yep.
And a little bit of
brief
apps.
look. Yep. So very quickly, we have an article from Android Police that's talking about a new feature that's rolling out to some users in the Password Manager app on Android. So this feature will allow you to automatically convert some of your existing passwords to passkeys if you are signed up with a compatible website. So this feature has been available on a desktop version of Google Password Manager for a while now, and basically just tries to simplify the transition to passkeys. Because right now, a lot of websites, if you want to use a passkey, you got to basically sign up with a new account, or you got to manually go in and then use the option to convert to a passkey. Like Amazon, for example, is asking a lot of users when you sign in, do you want to convert this to a passkey? But not every website's doing that. Not every website compatible with passkeys is doing that. So this option will go through your past saved passwords, see if any of them can be upgraded to passkeys, and then offer to do that for you automatically. And this feature is on by default, although it hasn't rolled out to everybody yet. So you'll have to keep an eye out if you're using Google Password Manager for that automatically create a passkey to sign in faster toggle if you want to turn this off. And passkeys, by the way, if you aren't familiar, they're basically the next generation, the successor to passwords. They're replacing passwords. It's using basically whatever on-device hardware is available on your phone or your PC to basically verify your identity without actually you typing in some string of letters and characters to verify that your account credentials.
It's supposedly the cool new security way to replace passwords that nobody can adequately explain to anybody why they should bother to go through changing from passwords to use.
Every different device that connects to a service that supports passkey, every different device acts as its own key. And I think the confusion for me, I get that, but yet I'm not aware of the device that I'm using if it has been already set up as a passkey or not. And so what my experience has been is that because I'm not immediately aware of that already, that when I get the offer to do it, it's I have this pause where I'm I don't know, should I do it? Did I do it already? Or and I just start declining, and that's exactly.
I just use too many devices. I don't want to have to worry about is my passkey saved on that device? Is it synced with all my devices?
Really confusing.
The nature of which it's presented to us is in a way that your instinct is to decline, and that is the problem.
That's a good way to put it.
With it. Yep.
Totally.
So.
That's a great way to put it.
And this is a popular story, by the way. So by the way, patrons, another perk patrons get by supporting us over at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. You can submit stories for us to consider on the show, both for the patron voting, but for the regular rundown. And this story was submitted by Dave Denyer and Brian Hellman. So this is a popular patron submission. So thank you guys. Obviously a hot topic, passkeys. I don't know. I accidentally added a passkey to one of my Gmail accounts, and so I use it on my laptop now with the dumb Touch ID thing, and it's the one account. I'm oh yeah, passkey, and
it's the one account.
It's the one account, yeah. And I don't know.
So we have a couple of comments that I'll go ahead and highlight here. Clinton says passkeys are syncing between devices now if added to Google Password Manager. So there's that. Maybe that helps. Yep. And then Cousin Josh says Bitwarden has support for passkeys too. And I know about I use Bitwarden. I know that they have support for passkeys. I'm still I haven't set aside the time to research it enough to figure out if I want to invest in it or not. And so I continue to do what you're talking about, Ron. Continue, or Michelle, whichever of you said it. I keep saying no because I'm not ready to commit yet. I have commitment issues, passkeys. But nice to know that there are
and that's the thing, and that I use Bitwarden too, and I have hundreds of passwords.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through and be is it this one passkey enabled or not? It's not prolific enough to be I'm switching to passkeys across the board. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a real
old
quick
man yells at clouds.
Yeah, exactly. Old man yells at passkey. Old man yells at passkey.
Passkey cloud. Real quick here, Honor is launching an image to video AI generator on the Honor 400 and 400 Pro. Some new devices launching May 22nd. You won't get these devices in the US necessarily. I think this is a notable or interesting thing, because Honor is making this available. It's powered by Veo 2, which is Google's video generation model, before Google is doing it for Gemini users. So that's interesting. Honor's doing it. But I think beyond that, it's interesting because it embeds itself into the why did I suddenly blank? The
Gallery app.
Thank you. That's the word. The Gallery app. And it makes me wonder, like, oh, wait a minute. So is that a trend? Like, are our gallery apps suddenly going to have the ability to like take any photo in your gallery roll and, oh, I'm going to just animate this, boop, and then there you go. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Google does that in Google Photos at some point. And do they? I mean, maybe they do it already. I don't know, but I don't think they do that.
I mean, the cinematic photo is close, right? I mean, it's moving the subject from the background and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, it is cool. It's basically like extending it's basically taking the idea of like a motion photo, like a motion photo you didn't actually take.
Yes.
What this is doing, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. One of the examples I saw was, and I don't have it here, but the photo is like a shot down on a soccer field with like 3 players, right? And then the animation of it is it's scanning down the field, and as it scans, there's like way more players on the field than are like allowed on soccer, on a soccer field playing at once. It's like, so it's still going to get insane things wrong, like, you know what I mean? But it'll be interesting, I suppose.
Yep, for sure.
It'll be funny, which is, I guess, one benefit of it. Even if it's like bad, it can be funny.
Totally. Yep. And then you got the last one, Ron.
I do. One of my favorite features of using WhatsApp is the ability to delete a message for everyone in the chat. And so I'm delighted to see the news over at 9 to 5 Google that Google Messages is starting to roll out delete for everyone. They've already had the ability to delete a message just for me. So if you delete a message, it'll delete it from your chat, but the other person you're talking to can still see the message. Now you have what's starting to roll out, which was this was spotted a couple of months ago. Obviously, Michelle, I wouldn't be surprised if you spotted it or someone, on your guys' side. But this is spotted deep in the APK a couple of months ago, the ability to delete for everyone. But it does, when you do click on it, there's a little note that says messages may be seen by others on older app versions. So your mileage may vary depending on what the app version that people are using on the other side of that Google Message chat. But people that are all on the same version, you can delete the message. So if you have an embarrassing typo or if you wrote the wrong thing to the wrong person, it comes in handy to just delete for everyone. So no one has to see the thing that you said by accident. Comes in handy. That's for sure. So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. A big edition of Android Faithful. 1 week out from Google I/O, covering all the stuff from the Android show, talking about Gemini and Android Auto. What a blast. What a great episode. Next week's going to be even bigger as we are going to be not live, but we're going to be alive in Mountain View.
At least we hope we're going to be alive.
I hope so.
We're going to be all together, sitting in the box seats as usual for the keynote. We're going to come back with an interview. We're talking to some awesome folks from Google. We're going to be talking amongst ourselves, so definitely tune in next week for our Google I/O edition, one of our biggest shows of the year. We're super excited. But until then, Michelle, where can people find you so they make sure they don't miss a thing of your coverage?
Well, you can go to my Linktree page, which has links to all of my social media platforms that I post on. I post a lot of Android news, not just the articles that I write, but also I try to highlight the stuff that my colleagues at Android Authority write. And today especially was a big day. We had 21 articles, I think, on the Android show. Just so much news from the event, from big things to the small things. So please give me a follow on whatever social media platform you prefer if you want to hear about what's new and what's upcoming in the world of Android.
Awesome. Very cool. And Jason, sir, what's going on in your world of content creation?
My content creation extravaganza. Well, I will just point everybody to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@JasonHowell, where today I did post From Hollow to Now inside Google's Material 3 Expressive leap. And it's just a fun walk down memory lane of material design over the years, and then a big dose of what this current model is all about. So if you didn't get enough in today's episode, go to my YouTube channel. You'll find the video there.
Awesome. Very cool. And for me, you can follow me on social media at RonXO across all the various different social accounts. I can be found most active probably on Instagram. Check out AndroidFaithful.com, where Florence Ion is hard at work. She covered today's Android show news. We got some more content coming this week, as well as her kickoff newsletters coming later this week. So make sure you are all signed up and registered there. Tune in over at patreon.com/Android Faithful for Android Faithful After Hours. We're gonna be talking about we're gonna be answering your emails because we didn't cover those this week on the main show. As well as we're gonna be talking about the fact that Google is leaving older Pixels behind on the battery health menu. The patron story that was so nice was listed twice in the patron pick. And we're also gonna be talking about Google's redesigning the G icon in their Google icon branding. As well as some other awesome stories. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Go check that out on Android Faithful After Hours. Available at patreon.com/Android Faithful at the $10 and higher level. We recently tweaked all those levels over on Patreon, giving you more value for the show. We hope you join us over there. And we thank everybody who's joined up recently. We really appreciate you guys recognizing all the work we're putting into it. Thank you for that.
Big thank you.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. We publish every Tuesday. You can watch us live usually on youtube.com/dailytechnewsshow and twitch.tv/dailytechnewsshow. Subscribe over at androidfaithful.com. Listen on your favorite podcast app. Email us at contact@androidfaithful.com. We'll be back next week with our Google I.O. extravaganza. Until next week, we'll see you then. Stay tuned, Android Faithful. We love you.
Yay!
My strep throat.
Let's pick a title.
Title time, and then after hours. Let's see here. It is Android Faithful Expressive Edition at the top. Gemini, our new Android Auto overlord. A very Brady I.O.-mas. The people's I.O. Gemini world domination. One toggle to lockdown. Your Google Wallet's tied up in a Brooklyn basement. Ooh. Ron in the basement, planting the Android victory garden. Hey, Gemini, get me a burrito. S25 Edge of battery anxiety. Ooh, that's good. Thou shalt not pass key. Playing through the pain. The Android Show. I kind of like that one. What is I.O.? I.O. brought to you by the letters A and I. Sexy party droid rejects. Okay. That might actually get some clicks, but yeah. Android He Gemini, okay. Flo's Android Auto AI boyfriend. So, any of these tickle the fancy? Android Faithful Expressive Edition, Hey Gemini, get me a burrito, and Gemini, our new Android Auto overlord, are all at the top, but only with 2 votes. There's not a whole lot of votes going on.
Not a real runaway.
The I.O. one's kind of like premature for those.
Yeah, because it's not I.O., but it is Android Show.
Android Show one.
The Android Show.
Yeah.
I kind of like that for some reason.
The Android Show.
The Android Show. Yeah,
I mean, that's
true.
I mean, but it's Android Faithful, the Android Show, right? A lot of Android.
That's Google's fault for calling the show the Android Show.
Yeah.
The Android Faithful Android Show.
Rolls off the tongue. The Android Show.
Yeah, why not? The Android. Let's do it.
All right, I like it. How do we get more people voting on titles? Because it seems like we get a lot of titles submitted, but not many.
Yeah,
votes.
I mean, and it's cousin of Joss, Clinton, Willie. I mean, that's pretty much our title crew. Yeah, we also don't promote it. We don't promote it on the show enough at the top.
Well, it's hard. You can only promote so many things before people are like, stop talking about all the things and get to the show. You know. Yeah. So maybe it's something that we need to just remind at the beginning before we start. Like, hey, reminder. Yeah. You know, you can put your titles in, but also vote for them.
Speaking of reminders, I noticed someone in the comments is asking, how do they send in the bug droids? And it's just sending an email to contact@androidfaithful.com, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we could probably do a better job of mentioning that, but yeah. This is exactly the place. That's the place. Okay. Well, that is it for the show. Now it's time
Show.
for the after show. Now it's time for the Android show after show. And we're gonna go ahead and disconnect and do that. If you are a patron of a certain tier, you will get that shortly after this episode publishes a little bit later. Thank you, everybody, so very much. Y'all
Thanks
awesome.
again. No live next week, everybody. So don't tune in. So
No live next week, but we will have plenty of fun for you.
take care.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see y'all
Bye.
later.